What's up, y'all? It is Ace of Cups Tea here, where we sip tea, talk about divine alignment, the meaning behind it all, and of course, we go with the flow. So let's have some tea. So the tea that we are having today is soursop tea. Soursop tea. Oh, let me see if I can. Soursop tea. This particular soursop tea was made in Grenada, and I get this from ahealthycrush.com. I think I've gotten tea from there a couple times. I particularly got this tea because, one, every time I go to Jamaica, I'm Jamaican, both of my parents live in Jamaica, so whenever I go home, it's so nice to be going home to that. But every time I'm there, I always get soursop tea to come home. I'm out of soursop tea from home, so I got this online at ahealthycrush.com, soursop tea. And the main thing about soursop tea that everybody goes crazy about is the fact that it is a huge immunity booster. And right now, while everyone's trying to stay healthy, be healthy, this is the perfect tea to drink. A couple other things that soursop is good for. Holistic cancer treatment is kind of the main thing that you'll find online. People that are doing holistic cancer treatment, they eat a lot of soursop, they drink a lot of soursop tea. It is a part of that treatment. It's also known to treat gout, ulcers, blood disorders, insomnia, diabetes. It's actually even really good for your hair health, you know. Soursop is also called graviola, I think. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Let me know. Graviola or pawpaw in South America and Central America. So this is a tea I'll be having today. The other thing that I really like about this brand is these tea bags are biodegradable.
So, they are these little sweet, perfect tea bags, biodegradable. They're like, they seem very, rustic. I kind of like that. I don't mean that in a bad way.
Anyway, let's make some tea. Also, today, I will be drinking out of my Cafe du Monde mug. Got this in New Orleans. Been to New Orleans a couple times. One of my favorite cities. And this is one of my favorite mugs. I love it for nice, big, hearty cups of tea. The back of it kind of talks about Cafe du Monde.
Anyway.
While that cools, let's get into our topic of the day. Today's topic is honestly one of my favorite things to talk about because I think it is every human being's superpower. So it's my favorite thing to talk about, and that thing is intuition. Intuition, it is our psychic ability. It is what nature has given us. It is our gift. We all have it. Every human being has intuition. It's just a matter of identifying whenever you feel it and really building on that, working on it. So I kind of wanted to start off with talking about, well, first actually I want to talk about two of my favorite books, and read a couple passages about intuition, because I just felt like when I kind of, through a series of very specific events, came to the idea of doing intuition, I was also like rereading a couple books or not rereading the books, but sifting through and finding passages and realizing, yes, intuition is what I should talk about tonight. Anyway, so the first book is, so many people love this book. It is The Alchemist. The Alchemist. I've had this book a couple times. I've given copies away. I've bought myself new copies, lost copies, and still it's just a book that I always come back to and always recommend to other people. The Alchemist is this amazing story about this young man's adventure to finding his destiny and following his path in life and understanding the messages from the universe. So it's like Yeah, exactly. That's what this book is about. So it's like the journey that we're on, and it's just in this beautiful story. So I just wanted to read a couple passages from it because I thought it just made sense to kind of kick off this discussion about nature and intuition and how we can build our intuition through nature with nature. So that's what we're going to get into once I talk about these two books. Book one, The Alchemist. So, intuition is really a sudden immersion of the soul into the universal current of life, where the histories of all people are connected and we're able to know everything because it is all written there. Yeah, I really like that because it talks about intuition being something that is interconnected between all of us. And it's why we all have it. And it's why we all can use it and find that power within us. Another book I wanted to read a quick passage about intuition from is Women Who Run with the Wolves. This is another amazing book. The reality about this book is I'm just slowly making my way through it. I'm not even all the way done. It is a little over 500 pages, and I'm just kind of like making my way through it, and it's such a powerful book. As a woman, it's such an incredibly powerful book that it's not something that you're just gonna like power through. It's something that you're really taking in, and you're really slow about digesting every message. I mean, I am slow to read this because it feels so intertwined with who I am and what I'm about and where I'm headed in life that it's just something that I'm just going with the flow through. I'm just going with the flow. I'm not trying to rush anything or force anything. I just want to enjoy this book. But anyway, what I was saying is I wanted to read a passage from it about intuition. Ooh, here we go. It's actually the perfect passage to kind of get into this talk about intuition. Intuition senses the directions to go in for most benefit. It is self-preserving. It has a grasp of underlying motive and intention, and it chooses what will cause the least amount of fragmenting in the psyche. Whew. I'm gonna say that again because it was something I underlined, and I was like, whoa, that's literally what my intuition is. Intuition senses the direction to go in for most benefit. It is self-preserving, has a grasp of underlying motive and intention, and it chooses what will cause the least amount of fragmenting in the psyche. So I felt like that was the perfect way the perfect segue into this discussion, because when she talks about knowing the direction to go, I had watched this documentary years ago. I must have been like 12 years old or something like that. And I was watching this documentary about ancient humans. And it was talking about how ancient humans could navigate the planet. Like, they found boats and shit. I don't know if I'm supposed to be good. They found boats and oars, and it was like very clear that like the people from Central America were riding boats to the islands in the Caribbean. The people in Southeast Asia were taking boats and going to different islands, and they were master sailors, and they just knew the ocean, and there were no compasses, there were no maps. It wasn't no Google Maps. You know what I mean? There was no GPS. Like, they could navigate the ancient humans, the natives, the ancestors of this land, of all lands. They were living with no technology, and yet they were able to figure out, put it this way, the highways of America, the different paths, those are paths that natives created that are just paved over, which is so messed up. But beyond that, what I'm saying is There was an ancient knowledge about this land and where to go and what made sense that they just knew. And they didn't need technology. They didn't need a compass. They didn't need, all they had was this planet, Mother Earth, the stars, the moon, the sun. They had this planet, they had this universe, and that's what they used. And they used their intuition. Their intuition was connected so deeply with this planet, so deeply with Mother Earth, that Mother Earth was literally navigating them. Literally, they were using all of the elements. They were allowing their intuition to embody all of the elements, embody the wind, embody the water, embody the fire, the earth. And they were able to tap into that deep connection with Mother Earth. And Mother Earth was able to guide these ancient humans and tell them where to go next and how to get to where. And it seems so like, but it's literally, how else were they getting around? They were testing things out. As a matter of fact, in something else that I was watching or reading or something, it talked about how they were so, the sailors of like the South Pacific, they were so good with sailing that they could tell from clouds and the way that the waves were moving, and the way that the wind was blowing. I mean, literally, they were looking at nature. They were using nature, and nature was giving them the clues, and they were able to follow those clues. So it's like, imagine that you're out on this deep ocean and there's literally nothing in sight and you don't know where to go. You have to tap into something so deeply innate, so deeply connected with the earth, that the earth literally is telling you what to do, right? So these ancient humans were able to do things because they had such a deep connection with this planet, with our mother. And I think that when you can connect in a really deep and powerful way, you can strengthen your own intuition. You feel me? You can literally build a connection with Mother Earth so that she begins to speak back to you. She begins to understand you and you understand her. I got really hype about that. Whoa. But it's really, I get really excited when I talk about intuition, because it's literally it's our first mind. It's what protects us before we even realize that we need to be protected. And I feel like even on a personal level, on a deeply personal level, I felt like I had spent so many years of my life so deeply ignoring my intuition, and not just ignoring it, but like writing it off as being wrong. You know what I mean? It was like my ego wanted X and my intuition was like, nah girl, don't even bother. And I'd be like, no, I'm gonna go do it. And then it, every single time my intuition would win, every single time, until I really started to recognize those moments and lean into them more. And it took so long. I feel like sometimes I'm like, damn, it shouldn't have taken that long, but everybody's we're all on our own path. We're all on our own journey. Pause for tea. That was a lot of chatting before we even. Yeah, I just feel like there were times in my life that my intuition would literally scream, don't do that or do that. And I would do the exact opposite, just because my ego would say, yes, I just want that. And I don't care about that little voice that may, she make a little bit of sense, but I'm still not gonna. So it's like, sometimes a lot of my friends know that I journal a lot. And it's so crazy whenever I read back to journals. I journal because I believe in a tangible expression of my growth. I like to read back years and think, wow, look at me now. Like, you know what I mean? I like that sense of accomplishment. I like that sense of growth. So that's why I journal a lot. But sometimes I look at my old journals and I'm like, girl, what was it was right here in front of you, and you still were just making decisions that so deeply went against your intuition. And it's like, how do you break that habit? How do you break that habit? And I did this interesting test this one day. This was maybe a little over a year ago. There was this one day that I was outside. I went outside to walk my dog, and it was just one of those days that I just wasn't thinking. And as soon as the door closed behind me, I realized I left my keys inside. I was like, damn, now I gotta like wait for somebody to come. I have to like wait for a neighbor to come in. And I had also taken that day off of work. So I was walking my dog at an unusual hour. It wasn't like the hour that everybody goes to work. It was like later in the morning. So I'm like out there with him, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to get back into my building. I'm gonna be out here like waiting, like a weird person waiting for something. And then I already don't like doing that, like having to be like, oh, I forgot my keys. I just don't like doing it anyway. But I'm like, now I gotta do this. But I also just don't like bothering people. It's the conundrum of life. Like, I don't want to bother anybody, but I need your help, which is a whole nother story. Asking for help has always been a struggle for me in life, and that's a whole nother video. But anyway, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even want to bother anybody. I just was dreading this idea of having to like ask somebody or run after somebody and like catch the door, whatever. Anyway, I see this there's this moment that I look at this woman who is way up the street, okay? And I have this choice. I'm standing at the corner. So it's like I can either go this way or go this way. And if I go this way, there's a garage and there's the other complex, and there's like so many options of where this woman could be going. And then there's this way, and I'm like, I could go that way and I could run into somebody if I go around the building on this side. And something told me that that woman was going to go into my building, and I could ask her to let me in. And my ego just was like, don't bother people. Go the other way and you'll figure it out. So I didn't go with my first heart that initially said, literally, the very first thing that popped to mind when I looked at that woman up the street was, she's going to where I'm going. And I've never seen her before. But as soon as I said, she's going to where I'm going, something else popped up and said, no, she not. Go the other way and figure it out yourself. And that's what I did. And when I walked around the building the other day, I saw that same woman inside the building. I just saw her walking into her apartment. And I'm like, I should have waited at the corner until she got there and just asked, hey, I forgot my keys. Instead of like, you know what I mean? So it's like in that moment, I remember very specifically when I went the other way, I said, you know what? This is a test for my intuition, because I feel like I should just wait for that woman. And I said, if I don't wait for her, I will allow my ego to win this time and be stuck outside for God knows how much longer, which ended up being like another 15 minutes. So see, if I had just listened to my intuition, I would have been upstairs chilling way earlier. But I actually consciously said, let's go with the ego side. Let's go with that second thought. Just take the second thought and take the L if you're going to take the L. And I took the L. I did. I saw that woman in the apartment building, and I was like, damn, I should have asked her. But I knew what I was stepping into at that moment, because I had made a conscious decision to test my intuition. So I say that to I say that to, after all of this conversation about ancient humans and finding ways to connect with nature, I say that to connect with nature, find your time and space in nature, find your time and space in the sun, with the flowers, in the grass, with the roses, with the trees, touch some bark, You know what I mean? Like, put yourself with nature, understand her, build your intuition that way, understand what nature feels like, step into those elements. Damn, I kind of lost my train of thought, but I say all of that, right, to say that I challenge you all that if intuition is something that you're trying to understand or develop more, start to test. You know, don't test this on nothing big. I tested it on like the risk of standing outside for a while. You know what I mean? Test it on small risks. Don't test it on nothing big, but have a moment that something comes to you and you feel a first thought, and when you blanket that first thought over with something else, be conscious of that moment and maybe choose the ego side, choose the blanket. You know what I mean? Choose the blanket. Don't choose the substance that's underneath that. So, and see what happens. Because I think it's not just more often than not. It's every time. Every time that your first mind says something, that is right. That is nature speaking to you. That is nature speaking through you. And, you know, I don't know what else to trust but nature. You feel me? Like soursop tea from nature. I also didn't really, soursop tea to me tastes like a really mild black tea, but there's no caffeine in this. So good. Let me read this actually really quick. Made with hand-picked organic soursop leaves, naturally dried in the Grenadian countryside. How lovely. I also love this little image. Oh, snap. You know what's funny? When I was reading all of the benefits before, that was just my own research. But let me read what the back of this actually says. Strengthens the immune system, helps to relieve liver and stomach ailments as a calming tea before sleep. Scientific studies have shown that soursop leaves contain acetogenins that help fight cancer cells. See, I told you. Yeah. Anyway, y'all, I am going to enjoy the rest of my tea, do some journaling about intuition. Think about, you know, maybe probably journal about times that my intuition has saved me. Maybe go back through old journals and read about times that I chose against my intuition, or it is quite the journey to be on this planet with the experiences at this quite divine time that we are in. We are actually in a wild moment in history. Wow. I was actually just thinking about this today. Like, we are literally at the cusp of so much change, energetically, spiritually, economically, socially. Everything is changing, and this is literally a time that is going all the way down in history. Huge history stuff. So it's really exciting to be here at this time with these experiences, and connecting to nature and connecting to my intuition, and really realizing that my intuition is what is going to guide me into the future. You feel me? So I am excited to hear any stories about intuition that you guys may have, how you guys feel about your intuition, ways that it has saved you. You know, I told a pretty light story about forgetting keys today, but I'm sure at some point I'll get into like really deep stories about intuition and where it's guided me. And you know, it's like I said, it's one of my favorite topics, so I'm sure I'll get back to it. But for now, have a wonderful night. Ashe. Thank you.